Are we live? We are live. Dave will be here any minute. Do we have audio? We'll see. We'll see who shows up. And this is a kind of a impromptu live stream. This is not a scheduled live stream. No one even knows about it. So we're going to do something a little different tonight. We'll see if we have audio. If Dave thinks we have audio, as soon as he gets here, we should be live here now. Hopefully it looks and sounds okay. We'll have to see. Hey, what's going on? Jeremy, how are you? Turn up the brightness a little bit so I can see a little bit better. Audio is good. Okay, excellent. Robbie Craig, look at this. None of you guys even knew we were going to do a live stream. So we're going to see how many people get into this room here, and I'll tell you what we're going to do. What we're going to do tonight. Let me get to another screen here on my laptop here. Stand by. This is an unlisted live stream, is it not? I think it is. Yes, it is an unlisted. Oh, no, it's a public live stream, so I should see it. Let me look. Let me turn down my volume here so that we don't. Okay, there we go. All right. Lag is really bad. Yeah, that could be YouTube. I don't know. We'll just have to see how it works. We'll just have to see. So we have 11 people here. That's pretty quick. Not bad, not bad. Let me take a look here. So who do we got? Robbie's here. Hey, Robbie. Jeremy's here. Hey, Jeremy. What's going on? David SJ is here as always. How are you? So what we're doing here today, this is kind of just a test, really. As you can see, I got a bunch of gear here. I want to talk to you guys about some videos. And I also, hey, DJ, what's up, brother? Also, I wanted to tell you about some videos that are going to be coming up, and I wanted to try a live stream from a different location away from the computer. So we'll talk about what I'm trying to do here. So bear with me if the quality isn't what it should be, or if there's some lag or whatever it is. This is something brand new. I'm not even anywhere near my iMac Pro where I normally do all the streaming and all the videos and all the mixing demos. I'm on the other side of the room. And I've built this little set. If you go to my Instagram page, you'll see a couple of pictures that I posted today of the contraption that I'm putting together to make this this setup and this set kind of happen. So one of the things that I've been trying to do, and we're going to talk about all this lovely gear in a few minutes as more people come in. So we'll talk about what all this is and what we're going to do. But one of the things that I wanted to try to do as we move forward here at Home Recording Made Easy is I wanted to be able to provide different types of videos away from the computer where we're not doing mixing stuff, although we're going to do mostly that stuff. Obviously, that's what we do here, mixing and recording. But I also wanted to be able to get back to doing Q&A videos where I used to do a series a few years back. Some of you may know called Questions and Coffee with David, where you guys would send me in a bunch of questions and I would get on camera. And I would answer them for you and try to do that. I wanted to get back into that away from the computer. I wanted to be able to do these kinds of videos where I can show you new gear and do some unboxing stuff as I'm getting more stuff and working more closely with Sweetwater. I wanted to be able to do this in a way where it's just, you could see the gear better, we could talk about it, change things up a little bit, and all of that stuff. One of the problems is that in order to do that in my studio, some of you have seen some of my older studio tour videos. I really need to do another one. It's changed quite a bit since then, but the room is the same. It's just rearranged. So one of the problems that I would have to do what you see right here is in order to make this set up so I can do a video or a live stream, is it would literally have taken a couple of hours. I had to bring two light stands for lighting, a camera tripod, some kind of way for audio, microphone wise, whether it was taking my boom arm over at my workstation and bringing it over here with my RE20 or my SM7. I had to get a way to, laptops, tables, lighting behind me. I mean, it's just a whole thing. And it would literally take an hour and a half to 2 hours. By the time I got everything out of the back rooms, set everything up, plugged everything in, there's extension cords all over the floor. There's wires everywhere. I can't tell you how many times I trip over stuff and nearly knock over a $2,000 camera. It was just a hassle. And unless I was going to shoot 4 or 5 videos in a row, by the time I set up and then break it all down and put everything away so I can use the room for other things, it's, you know, it's just a big hassle. So what I would do is if I didn't have 4 or 5 of those videos to shoot all in one day, I would never go through the setup. It just took too long. And so what really stinks about that, or what's not so good, is when I come up with a video idea or I get a piece of gear in, and if I want to shoot something quickly for you, it just wasn't conducive. So doing some research on YouTube, I came across a lot of videographers and people who, you know, have YouTube studios where all they do is shoot YouTube videos all day, huge YouTube channels. And one idea that I saw was one guy that had a rolling light stand, the light stand that was on wheels, and they had all these arms and clamps clamped to that one stand where he had his camera, his lighting, his microphone, his monitor, his recorder, everything was on one light stand. So he could just wheel it in and out of the room, set it up, and within 5 minutes he was rolling. And I thought that was a wonderful, wonderful idea. So what I did is I have a lot of triad orbit microphone stands around here. And if you check my playlist, you'll see about 4 or 5 years ago, I did a whole YouTube video on triad orbit. They sent me a bunch of their stuff. I did a great video for them. And I own only triad orbit stuff because it's rugged, it's stable, it's easy to use, it lasts a lifetime. And their patented quick release system enables you to take one microphone stand and just quick disconnect and add all kinds of attachments very, very quickly. And the stuff is built like a tank. They have one stand called the T3, which has wheels on it, which I had. I just never really used it. And so I took that concept of the videographer that I saw on YouTube. I used that stand. I had a bunch of triad orbit attachments already, and there was a few things I needed to buy off of Amazon. But anyway, if you look at my Instagram page, you'll see the 2 pictures that I took. It's still in progress, but basically I have now one wheeling stand that has my camera, has not 1, but 2 video screens. One is a hard disk recorder. One has a bigger one so I could see myself in the camera to make sure that I'm in frame and in focus and all of that. It has an audio field recorder, which I'll show you in a few minutes on Sweetwater. I have a shotgun mic, which I'll talk to you about, which is right above here out of frame to get the audio. I have a LED panel light on this stand, and everything is plugged into a power strip that's attached to the stand. And so all I have to do is plug the power strip into the wall, one plug, and I just wheel the whole stand right up where it needs to be. I put tape on the floor so I know exactly where it needs to be, so the distance from me to the camera is exactly the same. And then I just turn everything on and I hit record, and I can start making a video very quickly. And then when I'm done, I could just take the camera or the stand and just wheel it off into the corner. And the only other thing I have to set up is this table that I'm sitting at, which is a folding table. So I just fold the legs in, throw it in the closet, and we're done. So that will open up a lot more possibilities for me to do videos like this. So one of the things I wanted to do today is I wanted to do, you know, kind of an unscheduled live stream, because one of the other pieces of gear that I bought to enable me to live stream away from my main computer, and you can't see it here, and I'm afraid to lift it and pull all the wires out, but I don't know if I can, you won't see it. But anyway, I'll put a picture up on the screen in a bit. I bought this little video switcher by Blackmagic called the ATEM Mini Pro, and it allows me to put 4 video sources in, and it also has streaming encoders right in the unit. So I'm not streaming on OBS. As you can tell, you don't see all the graphics and everything with the scrolly thing along the bottom. And I can switch between cameras just by touching a button. So if I wanted to show you something on Sweetwater, I can just do this, and now you'll see, and I can put myself up here in the top corner, and now you'll see the field. This is actually the field recorder that I'm using. This is by Sound Devices. This is called the Mix Pre 3. It's just a little field recorder. It allows me to have 3 XLR inputs. I'm only using 1, obviously, from my shotgun mic. It has a stereo out that goes into my video switcher, so you guys hear the audio. And what I like about this unit that no other little field recorder has, for less than $1,000 anyway, is the ability, you don't see it on this image here, but the ability to see there's sound meters, level meters. So I can see my voice coming in. I can see if I'm clipping, if I'm not clipping, I can see the audio working. Most of the Tascam and some of the other more affordable ones are great, but you can't really see the display from a distance. So this one really works well, and the preamps are really clean in this one, which I really like. It records directly to an SD card, which is awesome. And so that's what I'm doing there. And then if I want to come back here, I just cut back here and then I come back to the main shot. So it makes it nice to be able to do these kinds of videos, which is really, really cool. So that's what I'm kind of trying to achieve here, is the ability to try to change things up. And then so we can talk about gear. So let's, we got what, 16 people here. This is cool. Hey Steve, what's going on for a live stream that wasn't scheduled? Now I know Dave's already put it in the chat. So a couple of things before I forget. Tonight at midnight Eastern Standard Time, actually 11:59 is the last minute. I couldn't set it to midnight. The Mixing Masterclass 25% off, early bird special sale is over. So if you haven't jumped in on the Mixing Masterclass and you want to save 25%, this is the one and only time it'll ever be discounted, ever, okay? So it's going to go off sale at midnight tonight, and then the class is only going to be open until Tuesday of next week. I don't know the date offhand, so you guys will probably know. And then the class closes for a minimum of 3 months, okay? And then when it reopens again, we're not going to have a 25% discount. So if you want to get in on it, now's the time to get in on it. Pick your package. You get a lot of freebies depending on which package you buy. And just the amount of free courses that I'm giving away from the Home Recording Made Easy catalog pays for like half of the masterclass if you buy the middle or the upper package. So I try to make it really, affordable and really a great value. And I think you'll find that it's a great value. So that ends tonight, and that's it. So go get it now, jump on it, open up another browser window, and go ahead and get in on the master class. So that'll be really, really cool. So thanks, Dave, for putting that in the chat. Make sure you also, anything that I show you tonight or I show you at Sweetwater, if you're interested, Dave's put the affiliate link in the chat. If you use that affiliate link, obviously it helps me, gives me a small commission, but you don't pay anything more for the product. And I really appreciate it. And I know a lot of you guys here, I can see the names, and you guys always email me when you go and buy stuff and you tell me about your gear, which I love, by the way. I love listening to what you guys buy, and it's really cool. But I could see at least 5 or 6 of yous here that I know have bought stuff with that affiliate link, probably more. And again, thank you so much. I mean, it really does help. And so I really appreciate that, because that affiliate link and the traffic that it generates not only helps me make a little bit of money to free up my time to do all these free videos for you guys, but more importantly, it allows me to bring you stuff like this. This right here would never happen if I didn't have a relationship with Sweetwater, and that relationship with Sweetwater would not be what it is right now if it wasn't for you guys who are actually, when you're in the market for new gear, you're going to Sweetwater and buying it, and you're buying it with my affiliate link. That is the only reason this happens. Because I've been buying from Sweetwater for 10 years as a customer, but they're not sending me stuff to demo. Okay, they're only doing that because they see that, wow, Dave's audience comes here and they shop here. And so let's see if there's anything that Dave's audience wants to see, so we could send them some gear and he could play around with some stuff and check things out for you guys. So thanks so much. It really does help. I can't even begin to tell you. So anyhow, let's talk a little bit about some of the gear. So there is going to be over the next, I'm shooting all of these videos that I'm about to tell you about next week. The whole week is dedicated to making these videos. They're going to go up on YouTube, probably 1 or 2 a week for the next 4 or 5 weeks. Yesterday, I think it was yesterday or the day before, you saw the very first video that I did with Sweetwater showing you how to buy universal audio plugins on the Sweetwater website, which is really cool. A lot of you guys check that out. And the only place that you can buy universal audio plugins, aside from the universal audio website, is Sweetwater. And the reason why that's a good deal is not because for any other reason other than you can use your Sweetwater credit card and you can buy those plugins interest-free for 4 years. and you saw me demonstrate that. You can't do that at the Universal Audio website. Okay, so if you're in the market for UA plugins, which are a little on the pricey side, I get it, or anything Universal Audio, you can get it interest-free. So that makes it a good deal. That's the first video. The second video you're going to see coming up Tuesday is I did a whole, it's like a 45-minute video on a beginner's guide to the Universal Audio Apollo Solo, the little desktop interface, the 2-channel interface. It's like $600. I did a whole thing on that. I have it in the other room here. I didn't bring it out, but I did a whole video on that, how to set it up, talked about it, showed you how to install the software, how to download the plugins, showed you some of the features. It was really cool. Hopefully you guys will check that video out if you're into Universal Audio. If you're not, you know, that's fine. But they make now an affordable desktop interface that you don't have to spend $2,500 to get into the game for Universal Audio hardware. So that's something to check out. So the next set of videos are going to be all the stuff that we have here. So let me first talk about one video that some of you may care or may not care about. Again, I'm using a shotgun mic here. I'm using a Rode shotgun mic. And one of the things I wanted to be able to do in these kinds of videos is just have a mic overhead. I didn't want to have to wear a clip. I didn't want to have to get the big boom arm. I didn't want any of that mess in the way. I wanted to use a shotgun mic. So hopefully the audio is actually sounding pretty good. I think it is. I did some testing. It's not going to be the same as having an RE20 directly in front of me, but I think it sounds pretty good. And what I'm using here, and what Sweetwater has donated here, we're going to be doing a shotgun microphone shootout. That'll be one video. The one that I'm using right now is the NTG4 by Rode. I believe this is a $400 microphone. I get confused. I have this one here where this is what we're listening to now. We're going to be shooting that out against their more affordable NTG1, which is a $250 microphone. And then I also have coming in their shotgun mic that's $900. So we have a lower end of the price, a midpoint, and a high end. And I'm going to do a shootout kind of like this, where we're going to shoot out the quality between all three microphones to see which one sounds better. And if in the market, if you're someone who creates videos and you're in the market for a shotgun mic, maybe something you want to consider. The only reason why I'm doing it is because I needed a shotgun mic and I don't know anything about shotgun mics. So I called Sweetwater and said, hey man, can you send me a few so I can test them out? I'll buy one, I'll send you the other two back. And they said, would you mind doing you want to do a shootout video? Would your audience want to see that? And I said, yeah, all right, let's check it out. You said the audio is great. Awesome. I'll get to the chat. We'll talk in a bit. So they sent me 3 microphones. So I'm going to test out all 3, see which one I like the best. If you guys think this one sounds good and I think it sounds good, I might just keep this one. But I want to try the less expensive one and then the more expensive one and just see what the difference is. And I'm going to keep one. That's kind of, you know, my fee, if you will, from Sweetwater. They'll let me have one of the microphones and the other 2 I will send back. Or actually, some of the gear, the other 2 I might be able to give away. We may do some kind of a contest. Sweetwater's been good enough on some of this gear to allow me to hold on to it if to do it as a giveaway. I'm trying to figure out what we can do as a group to have a contest or something to give away some of this equipment. If Sweetwater wants to give it to a viewer, hey man, I'm all for it. I give it to you guys. You know, all you guys would have to do is pay for the shipping and I'd mail it to you anywhere in the United States. But more details to come. I know that's something we're talking about with Sweetwater. They've agreed to do that with a lot of this gear, not all of it, but some of it. And I just have to come up with a program or a contest or something to give away to some of the viewers. So that's going to be cool. So that's the first videos we're going to do. We're going to do the Rode stuff. The next thing we're going to do before we get to the Wes Audio stuff, because I want to spend a little bit of time on the Wes Audio stuff. So I'm going to move these modules here for a minute without dropping them and breaking them. Is we are going to do, you guys have asked for this, and I'm only doing these next 2 videos because you guys asked about it in several live streams, and that's Warm Audio. I don't know much about Warm Audio, although I did own a couple of their Pultecs. I thought they sounded good, but to me, they were no better than the plugins, so I sent them back years ago. But you guys have asked me for Warm Audio. You've asked me to check out some of their stuff. So the first thing I got here is I got the 1176, the WA76 compressor. We're going to compare this to the plugins. We're going to compare it to Universal Audio 1176. We're going to compare it to the Waves and maybe a couple of others. Now, just so you understand, and I've said this before, these videos are not sponsored by the brand, meaning Warm Audio is not paying me to do a comparison video. Warm Audio didn't send me this gear. Sweetwater sent me the gear. And my deal with Sweetwater, and they actually encourage this, by the way, but I want to make sure you guys understand this because most YouTube channels don't do this, at least the ones that I watch. So they want me to compare this to plugins, and they want my honest opinion. They want to hear your honest opinion in the comments. If the gear is better than the plugin, we're going to say it. If the gear is equal on par to the plugin, we're going to say it. And if there's a plugin that I feel or you guys feel that sounds better than the hardware, we're going to say it. Not to say anything bad about their product. I'm sure this is a great piece of gear. This compressor new is $600 at Sweetwater for an 1176. A real 1176 is $2,400 if you buy a Universal Audio one. This is 4 times less money. So it's a great deal if it sounds good. If you're someone who may consider, or you're thinking about, or you've considered getting into having a few pieces of hardware in your rig, I've done some hybrid setup videos already. This could be something you may want to check out only because it's affordable. And if it sounds halfway decent, then it may be something you want. If you're someone who wants to physically touch the knobs and twist the knobs and have it racked up in your studio, there's a lot of people that want that kind of tactile feel. This might be something. Or even if it just sounds on par with the plugin, but you prefer the hardware. It's not for everybody, but you have options. But we're going to take a real unbiased look and listen at this, and we're going to see. And I'm interested because I have no clue whether this thing is going to sound good or not. I am very cautious about any company that can take something like an 1176 and make it for 1/4 the price. I always concerned about the quality, the internal componentry, those kinds of things. So we're going to see. We're going to see. So that's the first video we're going to do. We're going to have our own video on that. I'm going to rack it up. We're going to have multiple cameras at the workstation, and we're going to see how it works. The next one that Sweetwater sent me was the LA2A. So we have the WA2 opto compressor, the LA2A knockoff, if you will. This compressor is $8.99 at Sweetwater. Again, a real LA2A is $3,500. And if you buy a vintage one, it could be twice that. So for $900, does this sound as good as the plugins? We're going to find out. I'm not going to be able to get a hold of the real LA2A hardware. I really wish I could. I might be able to get a hold of a real 1176. I have a friend in the studio that has one that I might be able to get for a couple of days where we can compare the hardware versus hardware. But for our videos, we're going to compare this to the plugins. So that's going to happen, and we're going to see, what does it sound like? Is it any good? If you guys are in the market for an LA2A, this might be your one. If it sounds good, we'll see. So that's the second video we're going to do. Then we're going to do a series of videos on something that I think is really, really cool. And by the way, the 2 Warm Audio videos, those are both sponsored by Sweetwater, meaning this gear I'm not keeping. I can't keep it. This gear has to go back. So they gave me the gear to borrow. I'm going to do the videos, and then I'm going to send them back unless I actually want to buy one and keep one for myself. I guess I could do that, but I'm not going to do that, and I'm going to tell you why right now. So one of the things that you guys know is probably 5 or 6 months ago, we did some unboxing videos of a bunch of 500 series gear, started to get into the hybrid stuff, right? You guys saw me unbox the Neve rack. You saw me unbox Neve preamps. Some Neve tape simulation stuff to 542 Neves. Can you guys see that? Hopefully you guys can see that okay. And we did those videos. And I have the stuff racked up and I've been using it. One of the problems, or one of the things that's really kind of a hassle whenever you're using hardware, is the recallability. So if you're someone who works on lots of sessions like I do, meaning that you're working on everything from client mixes to, content for mixingmadeeasy.net to Made Easy tutorials to even stuff that we do on the live stream, live mixing series, YouTube videos, whatever, if I'm constantly bringing sessions in and out, if soon as you employ hardware, regardless of the DAW, whether it's Studio One and you're using the Pipeline plugin, or Logic, I think they have an I/O plugin as well, or if it's another DAW where you're doing things a little bit more complicated, regardless, anytime you bring hardware in and you start tweaking the hardware to make that particular session sound good, when you close that session, you need to either write down the settings on all the gear, take pictures, or both, and then every time you call up that session, you got to go back and reset up all the gear. Now, if you only have a piece or two, I guess that's not a big deal. I had 3 or 4 pieces and it was becoming a pain in the rear end, to be completely honest. And what I found was 50% of the time, I wasn't even using the hardware because I didn't want to have to go through the recall, because I'm constantly switching stuff in and out, and sessions, I mean. So I said, you know, this is really cool. I love the sound of the hardware. When I would do a client mix, I would always use the hardware, but I wanted to use it more than just half of the time, right? So I did some research, and this company's been around for a while. But I've just recently kind of, got hip to them, which is Wes Audio. And Wes Audio is a company out of Poland, and they make apparently some real high-end gear. They have everything from 500 series stuff, which we're going to talk about, to some rack-mounted stuff. And that's not unique, right? There's lots of companies that make 500 series gear and rack-mounted stuff. So what? What their claim to fame is that on their 500 series stuff, it is completely analog signal path, but all of the settings are digitally controlled by a plugin inside of your DAW. So what that means is it acts like a plugin. You can either touch the hardware and you can twist the knobs and the plugin will change along with it, or you can change the plugin like you would any conventional plugin, and the actual settings on the hardware will change. And when you save your session, it is 100% recallable. Now that, to me, is a game changer. That's not the first company to do it. There are some other here and there. There are a couple of companies that have started to dabble in that a little bit, but these guys seem to have the most selection. And so I thought, wow, that would be something that, number one, I would love for myself, because now I would use the hardware all the time. If it's like a plugin and I can recall everything and still get the analog signal path, and I can still touch the hardware if I want to or not, and every single session, everything's 100% recallable. There's no writing down notes. There's no taking pictures. I'm interested. Let's talk about that. So again, I called up Sweetwater and I said, hey, if you're looking for video ideas to bring to my audience, this might be something they might be interested in. The home studio person who doesn't want to go through the traditional analog hassle of recall, this might be a much more practical solution. So I worked out a deal with them where they sent me some stuff. Some of the stuff I paid for myself. I'll show you which ones I paid for myself, and other ones they've sent to me. And we're going to do a bunch of videos. So the first thing they sent to me, which I have down here, it's too big to put on the table. This is their 500 series chassis. This is called the Titan. Okay, I think I got it upside down. Now, again, the thing about the way they digitally control the hardware is with a USB cable, which I'll tell you about in a second. So this is just a 10-slot rack, just like my Neve. On the back, there is a USB cable, a single USB cable. And that single USB cable going to your computer, when their modules are plugged into the chassis, that is what digitally controls each one of these things independently with one cable, which is great. If you just bought one of their modules, you can put these into any 500 series rack. It doesn't have to be one of their racks. And they have a USB cable, a micro USB on the front of every one of their modules. So if you had 4 modules, you'd have to have a cable from each one going to your computer. So you have a few more cables, but you don't have to buy another rack. Let's say if you already have some 500 series stuff and you want to buy one of their modules and shove it in there, you can still use it, digitally control it with the USB on the front. So they sent me a rack. And then they sent me 2 of the 4 available modules that they have. They only have 4, and I have all 4. 2 of them I bought, and 2 of them they gave me. Well, they're on loan. If the videos go well and they like the videos, I'm going to be able to get, if I want to keep the stuff, I'm going to be able to get it at a really good price. So, full disclosure, Sweetwater is sponsoring the Wes Audio video, but not Wes Audio, okay? So if the stuff is not any good, I'm not going to get on camera and say the stuff is terrible, but I'm also going to send it back if I don't want to keep it. So if I keep this stuff, it's because it's really good, and West Audio is not paying me to do a video, okay? So like every time, I want to say that every time, because that's different than all the other YouTube channels that you watch on home recording that show gear. They're sponsored typically by the brand. I'm not. And so that's the way it works. So the first one they sent me was, it's called the Hyperion. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull it up on the page on Sweetwater just so you can see it. Just so you can see the actual thing up close in case it doesn't focus. So here's the first module. This is a stereo EQ. Here. And yeah, you guys could just see it that way. And again, this is a stereo dual mono mid-side, which is really cool. So it can be used in dual mono. So you can use it on 2 separate mono tracks in your session, or on a stereo bus, or whatever you want to do, which is really cool. On the front, they have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 bands here. And all these modules, by the way, when you put your finger on them, when they're plugged in, they light up. They're touch sensitive. And so we're going to see that when we get to the testing of it, but that's how that works. They have a bunch of other features here. They have some a total harmonic distortion gain structure here, which is really cool to add some extra color, some extra grit. And they also have the micro USB cable on the front that if you didn't have, their rack, like I said. And again, we have a fully parametric 4-band stereo EQ, which is really cool. The build quality on this stuff looks great. And now you can see the price. It's $13.99. And here's the other thing too. Let me just, here's the other thing too that I noticed about good 500 series modules are anywhere from 800 to 2,000, depending on what you buy. So for a stereo EQ, 1,400 bucks, I think is pretty, it's pretty much in the ballpark. It's a reasonable price. It's not way out of control. I would have thought with all the digital recall that this thing, they would mark this thing way up for the convenience, but they really didn't. They kept it, affordable, meaning it's not really any more expensive than if you bought another stereo 500 series EQ by Ssl or Neve or any of these other companies. They're going to be around that $1,000 range depending on what you buy. So that's the Hyperion. I think that's how you say it. That's going to be really fun to check out. And again, you can see, so you can see the inside, some of the build quality there. And this is a double, is it going to focus? Let's see. May not. Anyway, this is a double slot, so it takes up 2 slots in the 10 rack. So, this will take up 2 of those spaces. So that's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to listen to that one. This one here I bought myself. This one is their version of the 1176. Let me bring that up on the screen here so you can see that if you want. This is called the Mimus, I think it's called. Come on now. Sweetwater's website's acting a little funky right now. But anyhow, hopefully the live stream's still working. Let's see when that switches here. Hopefully that's working okay. Yeah. So this is their version of the 1176. This has the Carnell transformers in them. Come on now. Yeah, it's not going to focus for me, unfortunately. Come on, Sweetwater. Okay, here we go. I can bring it up on the screen. Hold on. So you guys can see it. And then I'll switch cameras here. Okay, so once again, this is the Mimus or the Mimus NG500. So this is a little over almost 1,100 bucks. Again, it has all the same settings that you have on an 1176, including the all buttons mode. And this is a mono unit. It's got a 4, 8, 12, and 20 to 1 ratio, just like an 1176. Same attack settings, same release settings. And you can also, on the front of the unit down here, I noticed there's this A and B. And apparently you can save presets, again, because it's all digitally controlled. So if you have I think you could do that on all their modules. So if you have a preset for a vocal track, for example, you can save it right from the hardware, which I think is really, really, really ingenious. I'm surprised not other companies are doing this. Although there is a couple other. Tegular Audio is starting to do this now as well. And actually Neve, in their Genesis consoles, has been doing this, but they don't sell any individual pieces. So that's the second unit we're going to look at. The next unit we're going to look at is their SSL bus compressor. This is the Dione. Let me see if I can get that up on the screen so you guys can see it. And then I'll switch this over here like this. See how easy this is switching all these cameras? Right. Okay, so this is the Dione. This is their SSL bus compressor. And again, all the same attack and release settings. You have the THD, the total harmonic distortion. You have a wet-dry knob for parallel compression. And you have a sidechain filter, a 6090-150 sidechain filter, which is pretty neat. And again, that little USB cable right there in the center, that's the little micro USB that you would use if you did not want to buy one of their racks and you already had a 500 series rack. So that's pretty good that you don't need to buy their rack if you already have one. And then the last one we're going to look at here is their solid state Pultec style EQ. And I'll pull this up on the screen here for you so you can take a closer look. And then we'll get to the chat. We'll answer some questions if you guys want to hang out a bit. Let's see, where is it here? Here it is. And then I'll switch back over here with that. And then this is right here. I can't even pronounce the name. They got the weirdest names. But anyway, here's their 500 series Pultec style EQ. It's got all the same frequencies, you know, that you would see on the Pultec. Actually, it has a 20 hertz on this, which on a Pultec it only goes down to 30. It's got the boost and cut feature, which is really cool. So it's just like a Pultec. And again, you can save presets. This can also be dual mono, stereo, mid-side. So that's really cool as well. Again, this will take up 2 slots in the rack. And you can also save the preset, and they have bypass buttons so you can just turn them on and off and do an A/B thing. And again, I guess the, which I don't have a picture of here on the screen, but pardon me, their plug-in interface looks just like this. I guess it's an absolute one-to-one of the actual unit. So when you're looking at it, it's like you're looking at the hardware, which would make sense. And so those are the 4 videos that we're going to do. Again, this is $1,400. If you're inclined to check that out. So again, most of their stuff seems like it's pretty affordable as far as you know, 500 series stuff kind of goes. It's not way out of control price-wise. It's in the ballpark, which I like. So I'm really excited to bring this to you guys. So there'll be at least 4 videos because we're going to do a video for every one of the modules. And then again, we're also going to compare it to like the 1176. We're going to compare it to an 1176 plugin just to see, you know, how does it compare to an 1176 plugin? Same thing with the Pultec, although the Pultec plugins are typically based on the tube Pultecs, where this is more of a solid state, but it should sound similar. And then the same thing with the SSL bus compressor. We're going to just kind of compare it and see what the differences are, if we like them or don't like them. And then I'm going to show you how it all hooks up, show you the routing, all the cabling, all of that stuff, kind of like I did in the last hybrid stuff that we did. And we'll take it from there. Now, the other piece that they make, which is not a 500 series, it is a stereo mixing mastering bus compressor. I can't remember the name of it. It's let me see if I can find it here and show it to you. This one, I'm really want to try. This is another one of, this is a fully rack mounted. Here it is right here. Let me show it to you. This is something I would love to try to get my hands on sometime in the near future. This is their brand new NG bus compressor, again with all digital recall. That it could be run in stereo mode or it could be run dual mono mode. So I think again it has apparently it has the same kind of design as their Dione here, with a bunch of extra features in it and another level of saturation stage apparently. This one's a little pricey though. So before I get my hands on something like this, I want to make sure that I really like this other stuff first before I would make an investment like that, because I don't think Sweetwater's giving me one of those. That's going to have to come out of my pocket. But if this stuff sounds great, or it sounds, you know, like it just sounds really good, then I'm definitely going to incorporate this into my rig because I love the flexibility of the digital recall. To me, that's a game changer. I don't know how much more hardware I would have purchased if I had to recall everything as many times as I do. That would have been kind of a hassle. So that's the next unit that I'm hopefully going to get my hands on at one point. We'll see. So that's all the videos that are coming up. Let me jump into the chat. And if you guys have any questions, we got 30 people here for an unscheduled live stream. I hope you guys find this interesting. How do you like the new setup? How does it look? You said it sounds okay. How does everything kind of look? You kind of like the new set? I'm trying, right? Got some colored lighting behind me. Look at this. I'm going all out for you guys. All out for you guys. And more importantly, like I've said before in the other live streams that we're doing, if there is, like you guys were real vocal about the warm audio stuff, if there's other pieces of gear, something that you guys want to see, let me know what it is, and I'll see if I can get a hold of a demo unit from Sweetwater to test it out for you guys. I mean, that's, you know, that's what's really cool about it. They have everything. So if there's another piece of gear that a lot of you guys are saying, hey, why don't you check out this piece, or why don't you check out that piece? Maybe I could get my hands on it and we could do a video on it and we could check it out and we can compare it to, you know, other hardware or software depending on what it is. And that might be kind of cool. So we're going to be doing all of that stuff. We're going to be doing all of that stuff. So I really want to hear from you guys. Let me know what you guys think. So let's see. Do you guys have any questions? If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer anything or talk about anything you guys want to talk about. Let me turn up my brightness a little bit here so I can see a little bit better. And hopefully you guys like this new format, and maybe we'll do more videos like this. And once, like I said, over the next couple of weeks, you'll see my whole rig here. Go to the Instagram page. I just posted it today. It is kind of cool. Okay, let's see. Murray from Germany. Hey, Murray, what's going on? Good to see you, man. Thanks for stopping by. I do appreciate it. Let me see if I can pull this up a little bit more and expand so I could see the words a little bit better. Okay, there we go. David S.J. said, you know, that I know he wants to see the warm audio bus compressor. Yeah, I could get that. That's not going to be a problem. Once I shoot these other two videos for Sweetwater and we get them up on YouTube and these go back, I could get more warm audio stuff. So I will get the bus compressor because that's their SSL. You know, again, their SSL emulation. So that'll be an interesting video to compare the warm audio to the West Audio. The warm audio versus the West Audio SSL bus style. That'll be an interesting video too. So I will definitely get a hold of that. Let's see. Robbie says, you have some BA guitars behind you. How do you record them? When I do, oh, thanks. Yeah, I have a bunch of, these are different years of PV Wolfgangs here. There's a couple even behind me you can't see. So I got 1, 2, 3, 6 of them. 4 of them, the tobacco sunburst, the black, the red, and the white are PV, and the purple one after the white, those are all PV Wolfgangs. And then the one behind that is a black, well, it's a black cherry. It's the Fender EVH Wolfgang. And then I have one more off, you can't see it. It's a one, an EVH, the Fender one, Wolfgang Special from Japan that's not made anymore. How do I record them? When I do record, and the only recording that I really do for guitars these days is when I do music for TV and film, which, by the way, I hope by the end of the year I have a bunch of video ideas of showing you how I do that. How I write music for TV and film and taking you through that process. How I record it, though, to answer your question, is one of two ways. I'm using, typically it's all software. It's typically with either the Universal Audio Marshall or Friedman amp models. I also just recently picked up the new Amplitude 5, which is really killer. I mean, it's amazing, that piece of software. Or I use the Line 6 Helix. One of those three. That's how I record them, just directly in, right into my Universal Audio Apollo, right into Studio One or whatever DAW I'm using. So that's how I do it. Okay, let's see. Let me scroll up here, make sure I probably, if you asked a question a little bit earlier, feel free to type it again because I don't want to have to scroll all the way up, and I'll be glad to answer it. Why 500 series hardware versus plugins? Well, you know, here's the thing. it would be easy for me to just say, oh, it just sounds better. But you know, for enough testing that we've done here, and you know, I'm not just going to tell you that because that is not always the case. It's not that it sounds better. It sounds a little different depending on the hardware that you're talking about. I don't know about these specific pieces yet because we haven't tested them yet, but I will tell you that it's kind of a workflow thing. As I said earlier, some people like the fact that they have hardware and they can put their hands on it and they can twist the knobs. That's important to some people. Not to everybody, but to some people. That's an important feature to have that. And some people like the sound of analog more than maybe some plugins. It has a different sound in some cases. In some cases, I prefer the plugins. In other cases, I prefer the hardware. Like for example, my two Neve 542 tape emulation 500 series hardware. There isn't a tape machine plugin that sounds like that. I would much prefer use those over tape machine plugins. I think they sound better, especially when you hit them hard. But that's just one example. Does that mean that this 1176 is going to sound better than a plugin? I don't know. Is the plugin going to sound as good? It's probably going to be close enough for most people. It really just becomes what you prefer. That's really what it is. Some people like the gear and they like twiddling with the knobs and they want to have the physical hardware in front of them. And some people say, I don't want to deal with all of that. The plugins are just fine. And you know what? There's no wrong answer. There's no wrong answer. I've tested enough of this stuff to know that the plugins are so close to the hardware in most cases. There may be some exceptions to that rule, and we're going to see. Maybe we have a couple here on the table. I don't know. But that's really the reason. It's really just because of a workflow thing. It's really all it is. It's not that you can't use plugins. Most of what I do, you see here on the channel, is with plugins. So I love plugins, right? I got plugins. I'm always buying plugins and showing you guys new plugins. So I'm not one of these guys that say the hardware sounds better than the plugins. Sometimes, maybe. Most times they're 6-1, half dozen of the other, and it just becomes a personal preference thing. That's all. That's really all. And that's as honest of an answer as you're going to get, because or also too, some people will say, and this is they're being honest about it, they just prefer hardware. They like the sound of it. They're accustomed to the sound and they dig that. And that's not wrong either. It's not wrong either. So that's why. Hope that answers your question. Let's see. Okay. Any other questions? I'm losing my place here in the chat. Murray says the Dictator out of Hungary looks interesting. Real tube MU compressor. Oh, really? Okay, but is that digitally controlled? If it is, that would be an interesting thing to check out. I never heard of the brand, but like I said, there's a brand in Germany, Tegular Audio, which I've done some YouTube. I've had some of their gear in the past. They make really good, high quality gear, Tegular Audio. They now make a bus compressor, has a Pultec EQ and an Ssl style bus compressor in one rack unit. It's called the Creme, and it is fully digitally controlled. The difference between that and this is that on the Tegular Audio, the knobs are actually motorized, where they actually have relays and you see the knobs turning. On this, the physical knobs don't turn. There's a series of LED lights that are around the outer perimeter of the knob, and that's what controls it. Although these knobs physically turn, but they're not motorized knobs that turn like the Tegular Audio stuff. So that looks pretty cool too. Now Sweetwater doesn't carry Tegular Audio, but they make great gear. So that's another company that I know about. And my guess would be, as we move forward, I think more and more companies are going to do this, because I think this is really a game changer for a lot of people. So I think it's a great thing. Let's see, what else? What other questions do we have? Robbie says, nice that they are PV. Oh, you mean the Wolfgangs? Yeah. Yeah, I've been playing PV Wolfgangs since they came out in 1996. Every one of these Wolfgangs, woo, with the exception of the purple one back here, the white, the red, the black, and the tobacco burst, they're all the very first year production runs. So now with the unfortunate passing of Mr. Edward Van Halen, these things have skyrocketed in price. what I paid for these, you could never get one today. And they're almost, they're not mint condition because they're played, but they're all in excellent, excellent plus condition because I take good care of my things. I don't beat the hell out of them. And so you know, to me now they're collector's items and I enjoy them and I like looking at them and I love playing them too. I just, you know, I've been a big fan of those guitars for many years. So yeah, so maybe one day I'll make a ton of money on them if I ever decide to sell them. Immaculate music, looking good, Dave. Oh, thanks, man. I'm glad that it looks okay. Hopefully everything is still in focus. I got a couple of screens up here. My little flippy screen on my Canon looks like it timed out, so I can't see if the face detection is actually picking up the focus. Hopefully it is. But yeah, so I'm glad that you guys like it. Let's see. Why no fractal? Oh, you mean the Axe effects? I've never tried it. To be honest, I've seen people use it. It seems like it sounds great. But honestly, I like the Helix. I like the simplicity of the Helix more than I like what looks to be the workflow of the Axe effects. But I know people that use the Axe effects and love it too. That guitar modeling stuff has come a long, 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 long way. But I've been using a Helix floor unit ever since it came out, and I just like the way I have it all set up the way I like it, and it sounds great for what I do, which is just, you know, playing in a band. But you know, we're just a cover band, Weekend Warriors. We're, you know, we're mediocre. We're having fun. So for what I do, the Helix is perfect. But I know the Axe Effects stuff is wonderful too. The thing about the Axe Effects that I've been told, and again, I have never used one, so I don't know, is that there is a lot more menus and tweakability and a lot more get under the hood to really get the thing sounding great. And if you're into that kind of stuff, and a lot of people are, that's a great thing. Whereas something like the Helix and even the Kemper, or a little bit less of that. And so it's just a workflow thing, but that's why I don't have a fractal, only because I have a Helix. If someone wanted to give me a fractal to try out and demo against a Helix, I would, but to buy one, I have no reason for one. Let's see, Bobby Booth. Hey Bob, how you doing, buddy? Do plugins come with hardware or are they separate? Oh, you mean for the Wes Audio? No, they're included. So, well, that's what I'm told. I haven't set any of this up. I want to take you guys through the process when we do the video, getting it all hooked up, going out to the Wes Audio website, getting the plugin downloaded and getting it all configured and see how it works. So, but yes, the way I understand it, you don't pay for the plugins. You buy the hardware, it comes with the plugin interface. So, if it wasn't that, I would be shocked, but I'm 99.9% sure that's how it works. Or you get the plugins to use controllers to turn the knobs. Or you get plugins and use the controllers to turn the knobs. Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, you could do that too. I mean, there are certain, yeah, I understand what you mean. Things like the, I think you're talking about things like the Soft Tube Console 1. People have asked me about that too. A few of you guys have asked me about that in the past. I had one years ago and sold it. I didn't like it. Now, I've heard they've updated it. There's a few newer revisions of the Soft Tube Console 1, although the hardware looks the same. And so maybe there'll be, if enough people ask about it, there might be a point in time, maybe I'll get another one in here and we'll try it just to see how it sounds. But I had one when it first came out and I just didn't like it for me personally. But they have a great reputation as well. So, David says, yeah, well, the $80,000 Studio Desk didn't sound as good as Studio One and a bunch of plugins, so whatever. Yeah, you're talking about the video I did where where I went up to Massachusetts and sat on a console that I was actually considering buying, and I ran some stems through it and then brought it back here and ran the same stems through some plugins, and the difference was marginal. Although, you know. To this day, people comment on that video and they totally missed the point. It's really amazing how when someone thinks something is, if I told you something was analog and it was hardware and it ran through this, that just me saying those words to a lot of people before they even listen to the music they have a preconceived notion that it's going to sound better than the plugins. And then when you tell them, or they find out that, wow, the plugins are actually really close to the hardware, in this particular example that I did was one example, that then all the, you know, all the people that hang around on the Gear Sluts website, which is, well, could be a nasty place at times, all come out with their axes. They want to just chop you down. You don't know what you're doing, and da 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 da. It's a whole thing. And so to this day, I get comments on that video where people totally miss what I was trying to do. You know, I didn't do a full mix on a console. I spent maybe 3 hours on it. It was just running audio through hardware and then bringing it back and running that same audio through plugins, and just to hear, was there any noticeable difference? And in that particular case, there really wasn't. But that's just one case. I don't know. Like I said, there is some hardware that sounds, to me, better than a plugin, like those Neve 542 tapes emulators. I have lots of tape machine plugins. None of them sound like those two Neve 500 series things. I like it better. It doesn't mean the tape machines aren't great. I have all of them. You've seen them all. I use them all the time. They're wonderful. But I like those two particular pieces of hardware better. Those are $700 pieces of hardware, not $80,000 worth of hardware. So there is a place for hardware if you prefer the sound of a particular piece, you know. But that's just the way it is. But in the end, none of this stuff matters if you don't have basic mixing and recording skills. It doesn't matter whether I give you an $80,000 console, or I give you a $300 plugin, or I give you an $1,100 500 series module. If you don't know the basics of what you're supposed to be doing and understand how to use this stuff, none of that matters. And that's why most of you guys are here getting training. And I get it, but it's all cool. It's all good stuff, right? Okay, let's see. What other questions do we have? See if Sweetwater will send you an API in Neve hardware channel strips. I'd have to know which ones we would have to talk about. I could probably get... I was starting to talk to him about an API 2500 bus compressor because I have 2 other plugins. I'd love to compare the real API hardware bus compressor to the plugin, because the API 2500 bus compressor is one of the most famous bus compressors next to the Ssl G series on planet Earth, and it sounds amazing. The plugins sound great. It'd be interesting to try one of those as well. But honestly, I gotta tell you, unless I'm highly disappointed with this stuff, I don't know that I would personally buy any more hardware that wasn't digitally controlled. I just don't know that I would. Unless there was, like I said, those Neve, again, I'll go back to those Neve 542s, those I'm keeping. Those are great, but those are not really tweaked from mix to mix. That is kind of a more set it and forget it kind of a piece of hardware for me. It's rare that anything changes, and if it does, it's very, very slight. It's not like a compressor where you're, depending on the audio going in, you're completely resetting it up. So I don't know. But yeah, API will be fun. I also talking to him about the SSL Fusion, which is their bus, you know, color box, which might be kind of cool to check out. You have a very good taste in guitars, sir. Oh, thank you, Robbie. I got some others you don't see. I got a Paul Reed Smith double cut 594, which is really cool. And I also got a Paul Reed Smith David Grissom Oswald, the DGT, which is probably my favorite out of most of the guitars here. But thank you. I like guitars. I wish I was a better player, but I like having them. Let's see. Dave said that he cheaped out and bought the Head Rush, and it sounds amazing to me. Oh yeah, the Head Rush pedal board. I've played one of those. Those are great. I think that's on par to like a Helix. I mean, from what I remember playing it, I don't remember playing that thinking it wasn't any good. What I liked about the Head Rush, if I remember right, Dave, it's a touchscreen like an iPad, right? It's like kind of a drag and drop, which is kind of nice. The Helix isn't like that. So that it's got a nicer screen on it. But I remember some of the patches for the Head Rush were really great. I thought they were really great. So I wouldn't say you cheaped out. That's a good product from what I remember. Robbie says it sounds great. Robbie says the Head Rush sounds great, but he bought a Helix rack a couple of years back. Yeah, I have the Helix floor unit. Yeah, so same thing, just one's in a rack. Murray says, no, it's manual. The Tegular Audio has a very distinct sound. Okay. The Dictator is a new company. Oh, okay, good. It's a manual thing. All right, great. Now that's cool. I'll have to check it out. I don't know anything about it. That's really cool. Aaron says that he has the Hyperion, and yes, the plugins are free to download. Okay, great. Awesome, man. Thank you for the information. That's good to know. Yeah, I would have assumed it would have been free. And I did a little bit of, I've checked out some YouTube videos on West Audio. There's not a ton of videos, but the ones that are on there, no one has said a bad word about their stuff yet. Most people really rave about the sound of their stuff, so I'm really excited to try it. Let's see here. API channel strip. Okay. Let's see. Yes, Dave, 25% off the masterclass. You only got a couple hours. What is it? 8 o'clock? You got about 3 hours left, and then the masterclass goes away. Let's see. Imagine if someone were to take $2,500 and had the choice to buy one great compressor or mic pre, or choose to buy tons of plugins. I think they would be served better by a bunch of plugins. I can't say I disagree with you. Again, it depends on the person. I can't say that you're wrong. I can't say that I would disagree with that. I have way more money in plugins than I do in hardware, or microphones for that matter, way more. So I don't disagree with that, but I also understand people that are into using hardware more than they are to using plugins. But could you get more, like you were just saying, $2,500? Can you get a bigger palette of sounds and colors and tools and plugins? Well, of course, without a doubt, of course. But some people will swear by they want to have hardware in their rack. Some people, I know cats that have full analog studios, and it's all hooked up to a Pro Tools rig. They wouldn't even dream of using plugins unless it was absolutely necessary. I don't know. I mean, plugins have come a long way. A real analog studio is cool. It's cool. But it's also a hell of a lot of maintenance. It's a hell of a lot more work. It's not easy to go between sessions. It's a challenge, but there are people and there are musicians and there are artists that won't record in anything other than something like that. So again, it's horses for courses, but your point is well taken, and I can't say I disagree with you, because you're right, but I understand both sides of the fence. DJ Red saying that Murray is talking about Glenn Fricker. Yeah, I know Glenn. I've seen his videos. He's a colorful character for sure. I don't know him personally, but he's got some cool videos. Del Wood. Hey, Del. How are you? Hi, a bit off topic, but maybe upgrading a laptop to you might be upgrading to a new M1 MacBook Pro. Only 8 gigs of RAM version is available, and place where I have a voucher for it. Would this be enough for Studio One solo work only? The M1 I know has got a killer I have an M1 Mac Mini that I've been testing using to run backing tracks live, and it's fantastic speed-wise, but I got 16 gigs of RAM in it. Would 8 gigs of RAM be enough? It'll be enough to run Studio One. It will be enough to just record a track or two here or there. If you can't get 16, go with 8. I don't know if the MacBook Pros, if the new ones are going to be upgradable, meaning in the future, will you be able to add additional RAM to that like the old ones? Something tells me you can't, but I don't know that to be a fact. It should be enough. If there's any way for you to get more than 8 gigs of RAM, I would tell you to get more than 8 gigs of RAM, or wait until they have that available. Because if you can't upgrade it, and if you ever get to the point, and you may not, I'm just trying to give you some advice. If you ever get to the point where you're only doing solo work today, and then 6 months from now, okay, well, what's your solo work? Is it just recording a microphone and an acoustic guitar? Is it using a bunch of virtual instruments inside of Studio One? When you start getting into heavy loads on the computer, the RAM makes a difference. So I would tell you that if you're going to do recording, if at all possible, get a minimum of 16 gigs of RAM. If that's not possible, and if you can't upgrade it in the future, can you wait until it's available? I mean, you know what I'm saying? Here's what I would tell you, because I'm just, I'm a transparent guy. I personally would not buy a laptop with 8 gigs of RAM in it to do any kind of studio work, period. Me personally. Does that mean that it won't technically work? No, it will work. Will you regret that decision in a year? I don't know. But that's what I would tell you. And I have a whole, Dell, I have a whole podcast episode at Home Recording Made Easy, a free podcast. I think it's episode 5 or 6. If you go and look at it, it talks all about computer upgrades, what to look for, what to consider, Mac or PC, blah, 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 blah. You may want to listen to that. But I would tell you, if you could proceed with caution, I would. Decision time for live streaming, podcasting, and video conferencing with processed sound. Should I go with a DBX 286 or get an Apollo Solo with the live plugins? Oh, I've had the two. I would get, well, you're talking about 2 different price points there. But if you could do either, I would say an Apollo Solo 100 out of 100 times. If the choice was between an Apollo Solo recording through their plugins or the DBX 286 hardware unit, if budget wasn't your issue, because you're talking about a pretty big price gap there, but if you can have either one, the Apollo Solo 100 times out of 100. And I have a video coming up on Tuesday. If you can wait till Tuesday, you'll see me demo that Apollo Solo in a 45-minute video sitting at this table, showing you how to install it, how to record voiceover through their plugins, all of that. You may want to wait for that. But that's what I would do, because the Apollo Solo will do more than just what that DB286 will do. You could do a heck of a lot more with it, obviously. And so, not that the 286 is a bad unit. I used to have one. It's not a bad unit. It's an entry-level unit for doing that kind of stuff, but I would have the Solo all day long if it was me. Again, if the budget didn't matter and you were saying, look, I just want to buy it once, I got a few extra bucks, I can make an investment, the Apollo all day. Let's see, any more questions? All right, Dave says 8 gigs will be okay unless you run a bunch of virtual instruments. He's 100% right. And that's what you got to ask yourself, Delwood. You got to ask yourself that. If you're going to use virtual instruments, synths, virtual drums, Easy Drummer, Superior Drummer, that kind of thing, 8 gigs is not going to get you there. 8 gigs will be fine. If you're just going to do a simple voiceover and maybe an acoustic guitar and that's it, I think you'll be okay. All right, Billy's here. Hey, Billy, how are you? Good to see you. Robbie says, tell us how your M1 is working. It's working great. I've been using it I have a Mac Mini. I bought M1 Mac Mini just to run Ableton Live for backing tracks for bands. So far, it's been running flawlessly. I've only had it a couple of weeks. I haven't had any issues. I used to run it off of this laptop, which this is a 2017 MacBook Pro. This is not an M1. This is a little bit older, but this has 16 gigs of RAM in it. And Ableton ran great on this. I had no problems with the computer for what I wanted to do. One of the things I was trying to achieve was Ableton was running on this little 13-inch screen, which is a little challenging to see for an old guy like me. So I was constantly plugging in an HDMI cable to put it up on a spare monitor. And then I thought, well, if I can use my laptop and not have to have it always hooked up to my live rig, and I can use it to do things like this and be more portable, let me try that. And when I saw the M1 Mac Mini come out, and it was $600, I said, let me get it. Let me try it. And it works great. So far, it's running Big Sur, which is what it came with, the operating system. And so far, Studio One 5 seems to run on it. I checked it. Ableton Live 10 seems to run on it. I checked. And all my other applications that I was running with my MacBook Pro runs on that M1 with Big Sur just fine. But there's not much. It's just for the live rig. So, but it's been working okay so far. Let's see. Any other questions? All right, keep going. Oh, here we go, Delwood. We'll hold off and go with 16 gigs. Use lots of virtual instruments. Oh, okay. If you use lots of virtual instruments, my friend, you got it. If you use lots of virtual instruments, get 32 gigs when it's available. That's what I would do. Virtual instruments, you're going to need a lot of RAM. 16 may even bog you down. And again, I don't know if are you committed to a MacBook Pro? Does it have to be a portable machine? Could it be a Mac Mini? Could it be an iMac? Just only asking because you know, you get a lot more power for the buck on one of those. The MacBook Pros can get really up there in price, but you know, I don't know. Maybe you have to be portable and mobile, so therefore you need a MacBook Pro. But if you could, if it's a desktop situation, maybe one of the new Mac Minis may serve you even better for a lot less money. Something to consider. Let's see. Once again, it's a new company called Gain Lab. Glenn just reviewed it. Would be interesting to hear your view on it. I don't know anything about it, Murray. I'd have to go research it. You're giving me information on a company I've never heard of, so I can't give you an opinion on something I've never done. If that's not to say I won't check it out and check it out. But I don't know anything about it. You're the first one to ever tell me about it. But I would love to research it, and if it's something I'm interested in, I would get back to you guys for sure. Are imagers on vocals mandatory? No, I don't think so. Let's see here. Well, thank you, David. And I have just one question. Okay. Would the audience hear the processed sounds? Are you talking about are you the one that's asking about the Universal Audio versus the DBX? If you are, the answer is yes. In the Apollo, and again, I think it's you. I'm sorry, I didn't recognize the name. You'll see on Tuesday in the video that I did that I show you that with the Apollo, you can either just monitor the processed sound, or you can have it go out and print it to your DAW, or your audience would hear the processed sound. You can choose how you want that set up. So if that's what you're asking, yes, they can hear the processed sound, or they don't have to if you don't want them to. So there you go. Let's see. A lot of people chatting it up. This is great. Okay. All right, DJ, can you post a link to PreSonus? Oh, to the regulator. Yeah, DJ, if you search my YouTube channel, it was done in the last 3 or 4 weeks, the PreSonus regulator. For the money, that's a fantastic little microphone. I mean, I don't have a need for it here, but I will tell you this about that regulator. In order to do what that regulator can do with the little application, up until that product came out, took me about over $2,000 worth of hardware and software to do what that thing does today in one app, and it's $180. Now, the microphone sounds okay. Is it as good as, you know, a real high-end expensive microphone? No. But for podcasting, Zoom calls, and those kinds of things, I think you'll hear it in my video. It sounds pretty good. It's not bad at all. So for $180, I mean, you really can't go wrong if you're someone who does gaming or podcasting or live streaming, and you want a simple all-in-one solution that just plug it in and it works. I'll tell you what, you got yourself a good piece of gear there for that money. Without a question, it's not bad at all. So yeah, check out the video. Robbie says he's an older guy than me. Good. Thanks for this Out of the Blue live stream. You're welcome, man. Thanks. I'm glad you guys are joining me. I'm glad it's all kind of working. Maybe we'll do more of these like this. I don't know. We'll see. But I'll be able to set this whole thing up in 5. That was my requirement. I have to rig this thing up in a way where I can set it up and break it down in 5 minutes, and I can. It just meant that I had to go out and buy doubles of everything. 2 cameras, 2 lenses, 2 lights, 2 microphones. So my setup over at my iMac Pro is exactly the same. Nothing gets moved and everything is doubled up. But it's the only way I could do this quickly. So that's okay. I'm having fun with it. I'm glad you guys are enjoying it. Murray says, I've been doing sound for 44 years. Cool, man. So probably longer than you lived. Well, no, not really, but I wish it was longer than I've been alive, but that's not the case, unfortunately for me. So, but that's cool. I appreciate you being here, man. Let's see. What else? Let me see. We got some more here. Any thoughts on the Neve headphone amp for mixing. I've never used it, Ronnie. I'm sorry, I don't know. But if it's Rupert Neve, it's not going to be crap. It's going to be good stuff. I don't know anything that Neve makes that's not good quality stuff. So I think if you're in the market for a headphone amp, that's going to be one of the top ones, I would imagine. I wouldn't recommend for mixing it for critical listening. And I know some people will probably be angry what I'm about to say. I would not recommend a headphone amp like a Behringer or a PreSonus, so one of those $99 ones. Now, when you're tracking in the studio and you just need to get the volume up so you can hear yourself, say, playing guitar over a drummer, those are fantastic. Nothing wrong with those. If you're a vocalist singing in a vocal booth and you're just looking for volume and you're not doing critical listening, it's for tracking and performance, those are great. But for mixing, critical listening, more high fidelity, I wouldn't buy a $99 headphone amp. They're noisy as all hell. They have the noise floor in theirs are super loud. Something like a Neve that's going to cost you 6 times the amount of money is going to sound, as much as you crank up the gain, it's going to be dead quiet, and you're going to get really good converters in there and really good, quality components. So for mixing, I would say you're on the right track as far as the quality of units, but I don't have experience with that particular unit. But don't buy, for mixing, a $99 headphone amp. Don't do that. It's a bad idea, in my opinion. Let's see. So if you don't mind me asking, no, I don't mind you asking at all. What's your background in engineering and sound? Give a quick timeline on how you got there. Okay, so I started engineering in early 1990s. So how I got there, I was the guy in the band who ran the PA, learned the PA when it wasn't easy like it is today to record a band live in a club situation where you had to have a mountain full of PA gear and cassette machines and those kinds of things before digital recording was really around where the consumer could afford it. I was the guy that learned how to do that in my band. When I went to, our bands used to record our demos in a local studio. So if we wanted to make a demo so we can hand it out to clubs on a CD, we went to a studio. You really couldn't record at home back in the early 90s. It was around, but it was very primitive. The computer technology wasn't there. We went into a real studio. I went to a real studio with the band, recorded a demo, and fell in love with the whole engineering thing. Sat with the engineer at the console. We recorded, I think, on an old Ssl. Just fell in love with the whole thing. And that was my introduction. That was in the early 90s. Became friendly with the engineer. He let me come in on nights and weekends and work with him, and he kind of let me observe. I wasn't working for the studio. I wasn't being paid. I wasn't an intern that was running around getting coffee and all those stupid stories that you hear. I wasn't one of those guys. I just became his friend, and he taught me at first how to be a recording engineer. So I would go out and I would be his gopher, and I'd go set up all the microphones and learn how to mic up a drum kit and all that stuff. Did that for a few years, and then I started to get into the mixing side. And once I got into the mixing side in an analog studio with a Pro Tools rig, Pro Tools was just coming around, and I was getting in, learning that. And I did that for 4, maybe 5, 6 years in different studios throughout the Connecticut area. Recorded, I can't even tell you how many bands. Most of the bands that I would work on, because I was new, was mostly local cover bands that would come into the studio and they would get their demos made doing cover tunes. It wasn't like famous bands or anything like that. It was all weekend warrior guys, but I learned a lot that way. Fast forward to what year? I don't know. I think it was right around 2003, maybe 2002, where computer recording in the home started to become more achievable. The technology was getting better. It was getting less expensive. Started to learn how to record digital computer recording at home without analog gear, on using Cubase on an old Dell PC. And I did that for a handful of years. Got married, bought a house with my wife where we bought a brand new home that had a completely unfinished basement with 9-foot ceilings, the whole ground floor, finished it into a recording studio, and I opened up a studio here in my home and had bands in here every single weekend for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years until my daughter was born. And once my daughter was born, I didn't want a bunch of strange musicians in my house, if you know what I mean. So I decided to stop the tracking and became more of a mixing engineer and a live sound guy. Did that for a number of years as well. And then right around, fast forward to 2014, someone had suggested to me, because I was teaching a lot of my friends and other local musicians who was interested in the engineering side, would ask me to teach them, just like I asked that person at the studio who I became friendly with to teach me. And I started teaching friends how to do this for themselves and how they can record their bands and do that kind of a thing. And someone had suggested that I really ought to record a video course and sell it. And I knew nothing about any of that. And that was the fall of 2014. That was when home recording made easy started. And it started with one basic mixing course. And now you fast forward, what, 7 years later, 6 years, 7 years later, and this is where we are. So I've been an audio engineer since the early 90s. I've worked in studios. I've recorded, mixed. Never did mastering in a mastering house, but did a lot of mastering in my studio here. And that's my experience. And I still mix records. Today I don't do any tracking. I haven't done any tracking for anybody other than myself for probably 4 or 5 years. I'm not interested in that anymore. But I still do a lot of client mixing, and I mix records for people all over the world every year. I probably mix 6 or 8 EPs. So probably anywhere from 10 to 15 single tracks a year, plus all the education stuff. Hope that helps. Hope that wasn't too long-winded. Let's see. All right, any other questions? Okay, let me scroll down. I don't want to miss anything. Hey, Jason, how are you? What's your thoughts on preamps in the Studio Live 32 board? What's your preference for preamps? The Studio Live 32's got great preamps in them. I had one. I have a Studio Live 16 I use for live use. The thing about the Studio Live preamps, which is a good thing, is they're very clean, very transparent. They're not colored. They're not like a Neve. It's not like that. It's a very clean, good foundation, if you will, to get a really good clean signal into your DAW. So I think they're fine. There's nothing wrong with them at all. I wouldn't consider them, cheap or garbage preamps. I think they're good quality preamps, but they're very clean. If you wanted something that added color, this is where you would either get into hardware and you get things like, API, hardware preamps or Neves or anything like that. Or, as we talked about before, you could get something like the Universal Audio Apollo interfaces and record through their plugins. You can record through their Neve plugin preamp, or their SSL, or their API, or anything else that they have. Their old 610 A and B preamps, and those are going to add a lot of color and a lot of character. Now it's a plugin; it's not hardware, but Universal Audio has done a wonderful job in emulating the hardware with really fantastic sounding plugins. So that's another option for you. Hey, Robbie, thanks for the super chat, brother. I really appreciate it. Very kind of you. That'll get me a cup of coffee in the morning. You're all right, man. All right, let's see. Thanks, Dave. You're welcome, Ronnie. Okay, 33 watching and only 17 likes. Well, there's 21 right now. Or maybe there'll be more. There should be more. If you guys, look, this wasn't a scheduled live stream. I figured I'd jump on here. Some of you will like it, some of you won't. Hey, that's okay. I'm here having fun, and if 25 of you are still having fun, then I did it for all the right reasons. Any other questions? Any other questions? Would be glad to answer them. Anything else? Okay, don't forget about the masterclass. If you haven't gotten on that masterclass, you're missing out. I'm telling you, you will not find a mixing course like that anywhere on planet Earth. And I don't care. It has nothing to do with the money. There is no one, and I mean no one, because I've researched it, that put out a 20 or 15-hour course on mixing that shows you a whole mix in real time from start to finish. Nobody. No one does that. because they would have to charge you so much money, most people wouldn't pay for it. So if you really want to see a really, in-depth, real masterclass on how to mix for clients. I mean, what I'm showing you in that masterclass is how I mix for real clients. I make part of my living mixing for people. People pay me to mix their music every month. So, if you want to be able to mix at that level to where maybe you want to charge money for your mixing skills, or maybe you just want your music to sound the best it possibly can be, I think you'll like the masterclass. I really, really do. I really, really do. A lot of people have bought it, and I've already gotten some feedback for people who've watched the first sections of it and said they love it. I'm like, great, fantastic. It took me a long time to put it together, and I think you guys are going to like it. So I hope you guys check it out, I hope you check it out. I want to make sure you get 25% off because tonight it goes away and it will never go on sale again. I'm already selling it for less money than I should be. So check it out, really, check it out. Anyway, Murray's still here. All right, Murray, good for you, man. 2 a.m. and you're still there. Awesome. You're a trooper. I love you. Thank you so much. What other questions? What is your favorite? Do you guys use hardware? What's your favorite piece of hardware? What's your favorite plugins? Is there any studio upgrades that you guys are going to be doing yourself? What are you guys going to be doing to upgrade your studio? Do you have anything that you guys got coming up that you have on your radar that you're looking at? What is it? I'd be interested to know. I always like to know what you guys are up to and what you guys are buying. And if I could give you my opinion on a piece of equipment that I have experience with, I'd be glad to do so. We're going once, going twice. Any more? Dave says, the masterclass is by far the most comprehensive mix. Yes, it is. Thank you, Dave. Yeah, Dave was one of the early ones to see it. And a few of my other students over at mixingmadeeasy.net. And they were really happy with it. So I really think it's really great. What I think it's really good about it, there's a lot of great engineers. I'm not suggesting I'm a better mixing engineer than anyone else out there putting courses out. No, not even by a long shot. But I could tell you that I'm good enough that I make a living at it. But where I think all of my courses, and particularly the master class, what I really think sets it apart from anything else you're going to see is that it is a detailed from start to finish course. So that means that you see the entire mix from beginning to end. And I just don't throw all the plugins on there and just show you, well, we're going to set this up, set this up, set this up. I talk to you and spend a lot of time talking about why I'm doing what I'm doing. What is the thought process? What is the goal of the mix? What is the overall vision of the mix? How do we use it comparing to a reference track as a guide? And I really kind of take you through the thought process of what an engineer thinks about when he or she is sitting down and mixing a song. That is what most of the courses that you see don't ever share with you. For whatever reason, they just don't. They don't take you inside of the thought process, because mixing is not just mechanical, twist a knob, pull up a fader. There's a creative process behind it. We spend a lot of time talking about on this channel, and in a lot of my more beginner courses, we talk about the fundamentals, right? And the technical, and what does a compressor do? And what does an EQ do? That's all beginner stuff. But once you get beyond that, how to use that stuff in an effective way to make a mix sound like it competes with something that is on the radio. In other words, if you take a mix, one of your mixes and import it in, say, to your Spotify playlist, and you put a famous mix that's in the same style of music before yours, put yours in the middle, and then put another one on the other end, another commercially released track, you should be able to listen to those 3 songs back to back with yours in the middle, and yours ought to sound like it's competitive. You shouldn't get to the one in the middle, which would be your mix, and you say, wow, that doesn't sound nearly as good as the other 2. How you get to that point is what I try to teach you in the master class, which I've never seen another course that tries to teach you that by anybody. And I don't know why, but that was really my goal, is to really not just show you some fancy plugins, but really take you behind of how do you mix to do stuff at the level of getting paid work. So That's why I think you may find it interesting. Anyhow, all right, enough about that. Let me answer some more questions for you guys. Whatever Uncle Dave is going to buy for whatever Uncle Dave is going to buy for me, buy me for the studio. What am I going to buy you? What are you going to buy me? I'm thinking about starting a 500 series collection and thinking about SSL 611 and Neve 511 mic pre's. Those are great. I know the 511 mic pre is really good. I've never used the 611, but if it's SSL, I can't imagine it's not good. That's awesome. That's awesome. The mic pre's are real important, you know. A lot of times I'll see people make the mistake where they'll buy a really nice microphone. You know, could be a $500 to $1,500, $2,000 condenser mic, and they'll plug it into an audio interface that's $150 or $250, which don't have great preamps in them. And so you're not really getting out of that microphone what you should be. You're not really leveraging the quality of that microphone, putting it to a crappy preamp. That's where having maybe one or a couple of outboard 500 series or rack mounted unit preamps could really benefit you. Putting a preamp is really, really important. A lot of people overlook that. When they look at audio interfaces, they typically look at the amount of preamps. How many inputs do I need? Which certainly is a major consideration. But to me, that's only one facet of picking an audio interface. There are so many other things you want to consider. You know, the converters, the A to D, D to A conversion. How many line inputs and outputs does it have if you ever wanted to hook up a 500 series preamp to it? And what are the quality of the onboard preamps? You know, that all makes a difference. It really, truly does. So yeah, getting some 500 series preamps might be really cool. You'll have some different flavors, and even an SSL sound completely different from each other. So that's kind of cool. Good for you, man. Let's see. Also not sure if you tried yet, but the SSL Fusion is a beast. I know, I've heard. You're not the first one to ask me about that. And that is a piece I can probably get from Sweetwater to demo, for sure. I would love to try it. It's not digitally controlled, but I hear it's really a killer piece from what I hear. So I'd love to try that. I've heard that a lot. So I'd be interested to hear it too. Have you mixed any well-known artists or bands? If so, who? No, I wouldn't say anybody. Some indie artists, people that are, you know, people that you've probably never heard of, because they're either not playing anymore or whatever, but no one famous. If that's the only session that I worked on that had famous people in it when I was first learning, and I was working as an assistant then. I wasn't the main. They weren't coming to me for my services. They were coming to the producer for theirs, and I happened to be working on the session. Was and I don't remember her name, but she was in the 80s. Girl pop group TLC. Some of you older people may have remembered TLC. The main, I forget her name, it really bothers me, I don't remember her name, but the main singer in TLC, she was working on a solo record that was supposed to be secret hush hush at the time because she was still in TLC. And she came to a studio in Hartford, Connecticut. And I happened to be working with them there at the time. And I got a chance to work on a session where they were tracking a lot of her vocals, which was really cool. I don't know if the record ever came out, to be honest with you, but that was fun. You know, not my style of music, not my cup of tea, but it was a lot of fun. But as far as other artists, no, mostly weekend stuff, indie artists, lots of cover bands, but also a real good fair amount of people who write original music. But I wouldn't say anybody famous that you would know. No. Nope. Let's see. Hoping to check the Focal new Alpha Evo. I like the idea that it's heavy on bass. I run flat monitors in a treated room. Cool. But I've always pushed my bass frequencies up with the EQ on purpose because you like that sound. That's cool. I haven't seen a new Focal Alpha Evos, but Focal makes awesome stuff. I mean, I've been using Focal monitors for, it might be 10 years now, maybe. And I recently added their subwoofer, which I've told you guys about before. I love them. I love Focal stuff. They make really good stuff. So I'm sure that's some really good gear. Vocal mics, Telefunken or Neumann? Guitar mics, Sennheiser 409, what's your thoughts? Vocal mics, well, I mean, Neumann and Telefunken are real high-end. Depends on which ones. I mean, a Neumann U87 is the most famous vocal mic on planet Earth. You know, so if you got $3,500, you know, it's a great vocal mic. Just don't put it into a $99 audio box USB, please. Please, don't do that to me, right? But Telefunken also makes some really high-end stuff. Now, I don't have any personal experience with Telefunken personally, but I know they make some really top quality stuff. Neumann, I've recorded vocalists with U87s, U47s in studios back in the day all the time. Those are industry standard staples. They're fantastic, but they're pricey. Guitar mics, the Sennheiser 409. Is that the one with the flat face on it, or is that the 609? I don't remember. You're not talking about a 421, right? That's something a little different. The Sennheiser 421s, the ones that a lot of times you'll see on toms, are awesome on guitar cabinets. The 409, I'm not sure that I have experience with that. When I was miking guitar cabinets back in the good old days, we would use a standard SM57 with a Royer 121 ribbon, and we would blend them. Get the phase right, make sure that the capsules are the same distance away from the speaker cloth. And we would do a blend, a little bit off axis. That was pretty much standard operating procedure for most guitar, especially distorted rock and roll stuff. That was pretty standard. But I don't know much about the 409. Oh, what happened to my chat? Here we go. Robbie says, see if you can demo some Neumann and Telefunken mics. I probably can. As a matter of fact, May is microphone month at Sweetwater. Apparently, I'm being told, and they asked me if I wanted to do some microphone demos. They're really hopped on Mojave Audio, which I've used, which is fantastic stuff. They wanted to send me like $6,000 worth of microphones to demo for you guys. Here's the thing about microphones. I just recently did 2 microphone videos that hardly anybody watched. I'm about to do a shotgun microphone video, which I don't think is going to get a lot of views. So I don't know that my YouTube audience is really interested in microphone demos. So I might do a couple, and if they're not popular, then I want to do videos of stuff that people are actually going to watch. So, but I'm sure I could get Neumann or Telefunken. I'm sure I could get some and try it out. But I know in May, we're supposed to do some microphone stuff together once I get through some of these other videos here that I have to do. Murray says he just got a no hype ribbon using it on parallel recording. Cool, with the U87 through Steinberg's AXR for interface with a Rupert Neve emulations. Given the price of the mic, it's amazing, holding its own against the U87. Oh, interesting. I don't know anything about the no hype, but that's great. That's awesome. Fantastic. Ronnie asks, any suggestions on how to start treating your mixing room? Oh yeah, I've had podcast episodes on that. I even have some videos on that are older on the YouTube channel. But yeah, I mean, quickly, if you're sitting where I'm sitting, and if my mixing station's right here, and let's say more than likely you have a wall, probably less than 5 feet away from you, make sure that the wall in front of you has got bass traps in the corners, preferably from floor to ceiling. If there's a wall directly in front of you, make sure you have some high frequency dampening to cut down on the reflections. On the sides of me, right, first reflections or early reflections, you want to get absorption panels on the sides so the sound doesn't come out of your speakers, bounce off the wall, and hit you in the ears. Depending on how deep your room is and what's behind you, if it's a shallow room, like a spare room in your house or something like that, same thing, bass traps, floor to ceiling preferably, and some kind of diffusion on the back wall. It could be a bookcase, it could be furniture, it could be anything like that, or it can be real diffusion panels. That's the basics. Depending on the room itself and what other things are going on in there, then you would go from there if you needed to, but that's the basics. Bass traps on the front wall, in all 4 corners. If the back wall is less than, say, 12, 15 feet away from you, you want bass traps in the back corners. Certainly on the sides, and you want panels in the front. and I have videos on that, but that's the basic. That will get you going in the right direction, and then depending on your room, you may need to tweak it a little from there. Hope that helps. Rupert Neve Silk emulations. Love them. I've used them on some of their 500 stuff. Their Silk stuff's really cool. Okay. Oh, TBOZ or left eye. Oh, you mean from TLC? God, I don't remember the name. You are really old. I'm getting, well, I'm not that old, but I'm getting older. Oh, feel it all the time. All right, let's see. Any other questions? Steve's here. Hey, Steve, what's up? You made it, man. Good, man. We still got 29 people here. We didn't even advertise this or schedule it. Bottom Line Studio. Hey, Bottom Line, what's up? Just bought a WA76, running it with the PreSonus 1824C. Any tips on latency fix without pipeline? Without pipeline? No, I mean, you know, the best thing you can do with, well, why not use pipeline? Or maybe you're not using Studio One. Maybe that's why. I don't know. Latency, there's not much you're going to be able to do about that unless, you know, make sure the cable runs are as short as possible. Make sure they're high quality cables. Without seeing the setup, I don't know. But that's what's great about pipeline is it fixes any kind of latency that you might have. Let's see. Murray says 409s is the predecessor from the 609 and the 906. It's the Pink Floyd microphone, gold and black. Okay, yeah, I'm not familiar with it. I mean, the name I'm familiar with, but I can't picture the microphone in my head. All right, let's see. Don't treat the room. Invest in some really nice open back headphones. Hey, Alan, how are you? Yeah, if you don't want to treat your room, and I tell people this all the time, 2 things that I would recommend. If you are going to mix music and try to mix music that comes out so it translates, right? You want to really get good at the craft of mixing. You have to have 2 things in your room. You have to have treatment, and you have to preferably have a good set of studio monitors or a good monitoring system. And good, I know, is a subjective term, but I tell people all the time, for your main set of monitors, you can have multiple sets of monitors and you can have a real inexpensive, cheap pair. And I would recommend you have a pair of those to check what the average person is listening to your music on. But for critical listening, you want to have a decent set of monitors. And from a budgetary standpoint, I wouldn't spend anything less than $1,000 on a pair of powered monitors. Personally, what brands, doesn't matter, Mackie, Focal, JBL, Adams, they all make good stuff. But when you're in that $500 a speaker and up, that's where you start to get into better made speakers, a more flat speaker, typically better efficiency from a sensitivity standpoint, and you're going to be able to do better critical listening, which means you're going to be able to make better EQ decisions, especially and compression decisions during your mix. But if you can't afford that, or you can't go, you know, the cost of the monitors and acoustic treatment, which can cost you several hundreds or more depending, then you're right. Get yourself a $500 or a $600 pair of good mixing headphones, and all that other stuff goes away. You are going to be far better off mixing on a $500 or $600 or $800 pair of headphones than mixing on a $500 set of speakers with no acoustic treatment, in my opinion. So that's a good point, and I say that all the time. All right, let's see. Any other questions? Thank you. You're welcome, Bottom Line. You're very welcome. Okay. Freeze. Okay. Sonar Works is cool too. All right, man. Any other questions? We've been on here. What have we been on here? Oh, about an hour and a half or so. Okay. So last minute questions, I'll take them, and then we're going to head out. And again, stay tuned next week. The videos will all start. Well, all these videos will be recorded next week, probably uploaded the next. But again, there will be videos coming next week. All the Universal Audio stuff will start next week. And don't forget about the masterclass. Don't send me an email in the morning and say, hey, Dave, by the way, is there any chance I can get my 25% discount? The answer is no. The coupon expires, and I'm not making any exceptions because I've been advertising it now for a week and a half. So if you want to jump on board, jump on board. And if you don't want to jump on board, that's okay too. There's plenty of other training on the website. But don't email me tomorrow looking for a discount. All right, man. Great. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining and for my little test here. I really do appreciate it. I look forward to seeing you guys in the next live stream. And everyone have a great, happy, and healthy Easter. And I will see you guys soon. Take care, everybody.